Serving Liberal National MP will ask the Australian Electoral Commission to investigate GetUp for handing out bananas and potato chips to Indigenous communities in an alleged effort to sway votes. Warren Edge has told Sky News he'll be filing a formal complaint against the activist organisation for what he's labelled an offensive election campaign. Warren Edge says these photos show questionable behaviour during the election campaign. Free food and T-shirts being handed out in far north Queensland Indigenous communities.
You've got to stop and think about going into these remote communities and effectively offering them bananas and potato chips in exchange for their vote. I find that pretty offensive. And they obviously have a pretty low view of the capacity of our Indigenous Australians in remote communities to have an opinion for themselves.
The Cairns-based Leichhardt MP alleges the GetUp activists weren't just handing out food, but also how to vote cards, preferencing Labor and the Greens in varying orders. He now wants the Electoral Commission to investigate a possible breach of the Electoral Act.
In my view is that that is cohesion. I mean, that's bordering on corruption in so much as they are clearly trying to buy votes, which I'm of the understanding is illegal, and I'll be getting clarification from that when I put in a formal complaint to the Electoral Commission.
The AEC told Sky News there is nothing in the Electoral Act that prevents candidates from providing food to members of the public, and the AEC does not regulate how to vote cards. Other than that, they need to be authorised and not mislead people in relation to people voting formally.
I'll be certainly pushing very hard to remove their tax deductibility status. They don't deserve it.
Warren Edge says GetUp had a targeted campaign travelling to Cape York communities, including Marpoon and Napranum.
I think it's as low as you can get, particularly in relation to remote Indigenous communities who have enough challenges as it is.
Come election time, mobile polling stations are offered for remote areas. You said you knew this organisation was publicly moving around these communities to help support voter registration and even offer transport to voting booths, and you've seen that happen before, but you haven't seen this happen.
I was surprised was when we got a couple of busloads of young GetUp activists providing what they call a barbecue pack, a handful of cheap barbecue sausages. I mean, for goodness sake, a banana and a packet of potato chips for your vote? You've got to be kidding.
A spokesperson for GetUp has told Sky News their team has a strong relationship with Indigenous communities. They've felt left behind by the coalition and their inaction on housing, health and heritage. These allegations from Warren Edge against a First Nations-led campaign are racist and misleading. Warren Edge has held Leichhardt for almost 3 decades. The electorate was one of Anthony Albanese's targets during the campaign, but Mr Edge easily retained it.
One of the things that I've done since I've been in this job in 1996 is go around these remote communities making and the statement of don't let anybody steal your vote. I'm just reinforcing how important that vote is.
It's been revealed the Electoral Commission has successfully used some of the nation's strict electoral laws for the first time. The Australian Electoral Commission announcing it's convicted and sentenced Chang Fan for offences relating to breaching electoral laws. Mr Fan was found guilty of circulating spam emails during the 2020 Eden-Monaro by-election, which contained misinformation on how to vote. The AEC says the conviction is the first successful case of its kind in Australian history. For most of the country, the horror of the February floods that devastated the northern rivers of New South Wales is fading away. But for the people who live in Woodburn, it's an ongoing nightmare. Some are moving back into their flood-damaged homes, but others are still without and are forced to camp. Sky News' Georgia Simpson has this special report.